All right, hey guys, welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name's Curtis, and today we're gonna be talking about one of the fragrances from the house of Essential Parfums called Bois Imperial Extrait. So if you're curious to hear my thoughts and opinions on this fragrance, then let's go. All right guys, so here is my bottle of Bois Imperial Extrait. But before I jump into this review though, I wanted to of course, talk a little bit about the house, my experience with this fragrance, and actually with the EDP version of Bois Imperial. But then I also want to talk a little bit about Quintin Bisch. And let's go ahead and start off with Quintin Bisch. So he is the perfumer behind Bois Imperial, the EDP, and also the Extrait. And he's a perfumer who I think many people know about now. I mean, he's definitely one of the most popular and sought after perfumers at the moment. So whether you like his work or you don't like his work, I mean, he's here and he is turning out a lot of fragrances for many different houses. Now, he does take a lot of criticism for a lot of his fragrances kind of having that Quintin Bisch kind of scent profile to them, and maybe some of those fragrances resemble fragrances from other brands. Prime example is like Ganymede. Ganymede, I think, is a fragrance that really put Quintin Bisch on the map. And then, of course, Essential Parfums launched Bois Imperial, which is kind of hinting. You can, I think, for many people who are familiar with Ganymede and Bois Imperial, they smell Bois Imperial and they're like, oh wow, this is a take on Ganymede, kind of. And it definitely pushes down that lane for sure. But I think there have been other creations too from Quintin Bisch that have resembled maybe some other fragrances. Or again, it's just kind of like he's known for a particular kind of scent profile and scent DNA that he has, and he injects that DNA into a lot of his creations. And so I think there's a lot of people who aren't so keen on that particular DNA, but he's obviously seen a good amount of popularity because he has had those hits like Bois Imperial, Ganymede, and like he's done some stuff for Amouage as well, in many other houses. But yeah, he does take a lot of criticism. But then also, I feel like a lot of that criticism is directed at Bisch. Where I kind of feel like too, some of that criticism needs to be directed at the fragrance houses instead of Quintin Bisch, because of course, yeah, he has his own style, just like other perfumers do. But at the same time, when you're creating fragrances that are obviously being bought by the masses, a lot of people are really falling in love with some of his fragrances. Obviously, there are other fragrance houses that want a piece of that. So they're like, oh, hey, Quintin, can you create a fragrance that's kind of like this? But, so, I mean, is he being limited in his artistry with perfumery? Possibly. I know a lot of these fragrance houses are definitely, it's a business, right? They're trying to make some money as well. So they might be limiting him on kind of what he's able to create. They're like, we want a fragrance like Bois Imperial, or we want a fragrance like Ganymede. So can you make something similar? So is it necessarily Quintin Bisch's fault? I mean, the guy has to eat, he has to live too. So he obviously has to work. So I don't know, but I feel like, rather than put all the focus on Bisch, I mean, you either like his work or you don't, but he has been taking a lot of criticism. But I think some of that criticism probably needs to be pointed at some of the houses that are asking him to make these perfumes. Because yeah, there are definitely some similarities kind of floating around between fragrances that are put out. And it's not just Quintin Bisch. I mean, there are other perfumers that, have the same issue. But yeah, Bisch is one of those guys who he's definitely in the spotlight right now. And so, yeah. So that's kind of my spiel on him. Sorry for the ramble there. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Bois Imperial a little bit. I'll be talking about the Extrait today, but let me talk about my experience with the EDP. So I actually used to have a full bottle of the EDP. And I remember when I first smelled that one at the No Shop in Tokyo. This is a few years ago. It had just come out at the time. And I remember thinking, wow, this is so different. Like, I had never smelled anything quite like that. It was like this molecular kind of fresh, clean woodiness that was slightly woodsy. It almost had like a metallic kind of tinge to it. And I'm like, wow, this is super interesting. And so I ended up sampling it and bought the bottle the same day right there. And, you know, Essential Parfums, for that price and for that quality there, you just couldn't beat it. I think I paid, and I think it was even a little bit cheaper at the time, to be honest. I think 100 mil for like 80 something bucks or 90 bucks. I don't remember, but I mean, it was fairly cheap. And, you know, the performance on that was crazy. I mean, the projection, it was a room filler. That fragrance was a room filler, like beastly performance. Quite a massive sillage as well, but I would say the projection, I mean, that was not a quiet fragrance. That was an extremely loud fragrance. But, you know, it was very fresh, clean, you know, a pretty pleasant wear. I just had to kind of manage the spray. It's like, for me, that was a 1 or 2 sprayer, just because in the way that it performed. But yeah, I absolutely love that fragrance. And then when I found out that Bois Imperial was going to be releasing, or sorry, not Bois Imperial, Essential Parfums was going to be releasing the extrait version of Bois Imperial, just out of curiosity, I was like, okay, well, let me, I like Bois Imperial. Let me see kind of how this is going to change. You know, see if this is going to be a good, proper flanker to the original. So when I got this one in, I was actually pleasantly surprised. Now, there aren't massive differences between the EDP and the extrait. So would it be redundant to have both in your collection? Possibly. And for me, what it came down to was I felt like it was redundant to have both. So I ended up parting ways with the EDP, just because I preferred the vibe of the extrait a little bit better. Love the EDP, but I preferred the vibe of the extrait a little bit deeper, a little bit, I can't speak today. I preferred the vibe of the extrait a little bit more. But yeah, so the extrait here, what I really love about this is, number one, this performs extremely well, just like the EDP. But what's different about this is slightly darker, not as fresh, but it clearly has that molecular kind of woody metallic kind of DNA, just like the original. I mean, it smells pretty spot on. If you were to smell the extrait, you'd be like, oh, that's Bois Imperial. Hands down, you would immediately know what that is if you were familiar with the EDP. But off my skin, this one wears slightly ambery, like slightly ambery. There's a bit of labdanum in here, but you get that kind of ambery sweetness off my skin, and that's just adding a slight bit of darkness to this fragrance, and that's what I really love about it. I think I can even pick up on a slight hint of rose, but that is very kind of tucked away into the background there, but I'm definitely able to pick up on those ambery kind of slightly sweet notes, and I feel like that alone just adds so much depth and even more character to the scent than it already has. I mean, it's already, you know, it's a very interesting fragrance, the EDP, but this makes it a bit more interesting for me personally. But I do also know that people kind of separate, like if you were to have both in your collection, you might think of the EDP as being a daytime and the extrait as being nighttime. But, you know, I've worn the extrait during the day. I've worn it to work, and it's worked just fine. But yeah, I mean, it is, like I said, I just love that kind of slight ambery nature that that I get during the wearing experience. And for me, that was enough to kind of, push me in the direction of keeping the extrait and parting ways with the EDP. But again, like I said, a million times, they're both phenomenal fragrances. But this is one that, in terms of its performance, and kind of comparing the performance of the extrait and the EDP, so this is a one sprayer for me, one spray, just because the longevity I mean, this is over 10 hours. This is over 12 hours of performance with this one. The longevity is crazy. Now, in terms of its projection, I would say the EDP pushes out a bit heavier, but I would say the sillage with the extrait is phenomenal. The sillage is very, very strong. But the projection, it's there, but it doesn't push out as much as the EDP does. And that's something that I kind of prefer. I mean, I'm the type of person, I'll pick sillage over projection any day of the week. So that's another reason why I kind of pushed a bit more towards the extrait, over the EDP. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a quality fragrance. But then again, with the extrait, it's kind of justifying the price. I mean, with the EDP, I think nowadays you're paying $96 for 100 mil. And here I think I paid $145 for a 30 mil. So justifying that cost difference is something that, I think the EDP is the better deal, 100%. And you'll be just fine if you go with the EDP. Look, you don't need the extrait. But for me personally, I just like those kind of ambery and even that kind of slight rosy note that I get in here. But again, these are very similar. You know distinctly that both of these are Bois Imperial when you smell them in the air. I mean, they are quite similar, but just the extrait is slightly darker. And one thing too about the House of Essential Parfums, and this is something that I heard maybe 6 months ago. I heard the perfume guy talking about this. I think he interviewed the head of Bois Imperial, I forget her name, but they're actually releasing 2 more extraits in October. So it's coming next month actually. One of those is Nice Bergamot. So it's the bergamot fragrance that they have. So it's definitely a summer kind of citrusy bomb. And then the other one is the musk, I think, or Un Musk. I don't remember the official name, but it's the musk fragrance. So it's an extrait version of that. And so I think for me personally, I'm really interested in the musk version. So I'm excited for that to be released. I don't know if that will be released in Japan or not. It might be. I hope it is. But I'm definitely looking forward to sampling that fragrance for sure. But yeah, I think Essential Parfums, in a world now to where the fragrance world is definitely overly saturated and costs are kind of through the roof. I feel like Bois Imperial, even with their extrait line, I mean, compared to, other fragrance houses, it's still relatively cheap. I feel like they're a house that's able to push out quality. They have great perfumers and for a very, very reasonable price. So, I mean, this house, Bois Imperial, has my full support, full support. So yeah, I'm looking forward to, what they're going to bring in the future. I hope that they're able to maintain their quality and their fragrances, but also, that price point as well. But yeah, Essential Parfums, definitely a great house. And yeah, Bois Imperial Extrait is just the fragrance that worked a little bit better for me. But the EDP, thumbs up, phenomenal fragrance. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Bois Imperial Extrait by Essential Parfums. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. And let me know down in the comments section, have you tried Bois Imperial or the Extrait version? What are your thoughts and opinions? Well, I hope you guys are staying healthy and well, and I'll see you in the next video.